Are you ready for the AI-induced market crash? So my daughter, who's big in this stuff, just into AI, she just texted me and she goes, AI might not be ready for prime time. And I said, why? She goes, because I asked her how to spell formatting, and she spelt it what she thought was correct with 2 T's. And her AI, whatever AI she was using, came back and said, no, it's with 1 T. Now, Grok got it right, but I'm like, and of all the stuff I've seen with AI get wrong, from Claude to Grok, I don't use ChatGPT. My brother likes ChatGPT, but I mean, Grok has got a million things wrong. Claude has got stuff wrong, just basic stuff. And she's not using Grok, so I'm not sure what, she'd probably use a ChatGPT. I'm like, if it can't get basic spelling done or basic facts correctly, how the hell? And I just read this article in the Wall Street Journal how AI is hurting job prospects for younger people, software engineers. But I texted her, I said, how the hell can it get programming correctly if it makes mistakes on basic stuff like formatting? So I asked it, how do you spell dilemma? Because you and I both know it used to be D-I-L-M-N-A. D-I-L-E-M-N-A. That's what it used to be. And now apparently it's always been D-I-L-E-M-M-A. And I said, no, it's not. It used to have an N in there. We all know it. It's Mandela effect. But I asked AI, I said, no, it's D-I-L-E-M-M-A. So I said, okay. So they haven't been Mandela affected yet. But when I think about it, so AI is going to be the big freaking, the dog that don't hunt. And I mean, I use AI. It actually helped me rewrite a paragraph in my book today. It was actually phenomenal. It was great. I mean, it wasn't perfect. So, I mean, it was a good setup, but it needed me to go in there. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't, I mean, it's good. I just basically gave it a draft and said, make this a little bit more crisp. But it did. But it wasn't, I mean, literally, it didn't write the thing for me. I'll tell you that right now. I was like, no. So I had to go in there and mess around with it. But the format was good in terms of how the presentation. I said, I like that. But the words and stuff, the languaging, I did not like. But it's good, and I appreciate it. It's a help, without question. But being a help in taking over the world are completely different things. And being a help for, doing stuff on Word documents certainly isn't the same thing as taking over the world and they're taking our jobs. So this is going to finally come to be what they call large language methodologies, large language machines or something like that. When this thing falls flat on its face, like all things like this before, same thing with solar power, battery technology, electric vehicles, the same thing. Unless it's mandated, it won't work unless it's mandated. And again, it won't be mandated, but it will be, it will help, but it's not going to change the world. And when people start seeing it's not going to change the world, what does that do to valuations on firms that are heavy into this stuff? Well, as you look at the big seven, the magnificent seven, I mean, these are the firms that are freaking setting the world on fire based on their potential for AI. And when it doesn't happen, these are just like what happened in 2022. I think those firms took it on the chin in 2022. They did. The industrials will just go plain vanilla, boring, good time rock and roll, as they've always done. And the high-flying AI companies are going to take it on the chin, and because the S&P 500 is so heavy into these high-flying, tech companies, magnificent seven companies and whatnot, it'll hurt the S&P 500 because it's a market capitalization index. And that doesn't mean you sell it. We've gone through ups and downs before, but you can easily see this too. The valuations of these stocks they're not nosebleed a la 1999, but they are high, and they're based on what? The future earnings potential. And if the future earnings potential doesn't, Swervy McGee doesn't matriculate, then what happens? People start saying, I don't want to pay $30, $40, $50 a share for a dollar of earnings when I'm not even sure that dollar of earnings is going to be there in the future. And one of the reasons it might be there today is because they have so much cash, they're buying back shares, which increases the earnings per share. But if the earnings don't matriculate the real way, i.e. by making money hand over fist because you have a new product that's cutting your costs and increasing your profits, what happens then? Well, the market's going to get hammered. I mean, it's obvious to me. I don't know when, where, how, if you're dollar cost averaging, who cares? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you can easily see this being problematic. Easily. Where the AI says, we can't do what everyone thought we could. And all of a sudden, the freaking investors say, oh man, they'll go on to the new thing, Dutch tulips or something like that. I don't know. And again, it's not like it's going to be 2000 with .com stocks, because the PE ratios on these companies are not that high. But there are some that are pretty high, for sure. And anyway, I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't think AI is going to be all it's cracked up to be. I'm just telling you right now. And if it's not, what does the future hold for stocks that are highly valued, high price earnings valuations, that are heavily represented in the S&P 500? I think Magnificent Seven, 35% of the S&P 500. What happens? I don't know. It's going to be, I would think, though, if the earnings don't matriculate, it's going to be a shot across the bow, and people are like, this ain't what I thought. Let's get out of here and go over there. We're going to go to nuclear power or something like that. You know, something that also promises high returns, even though nuclear is a heavily capitalized industry and tech is less capitalized industry. There's a book I just ordered, The History of, what the hell was it? The History of Lending or The History of Debt. Very interesting. And I just can't wait to read it, because basically the idea was that debt has been around. People thought we used to barter and stuff. This guy's argument is we never bartered. We always had debt. It's based on a high trust, homogenous society where people trust each other to pay back what they owed. We're not having that anymore. That society is now behind us for sure. And the thesis, at least my understanding, I read the book, is that's bad. That's bad for the future if we don't have a high trust homogenous society, because basically the debt is based on solely, and I don't necessarily agree with this or disagree, I haven't read the book yet, but if the debt is solely based on companies making profits, economies growing and whatnot, what happens to that debt if that does not happen? You know what I'm saying? And I don't have an answer for it. I just find it interesting for sure. And then my other guy reading, I think he had written a book, but it's about sovereign wealth, creating a sovereign wealth fund, so we can actually invest, like Trump did with Intel, into companies that we need for national security and things like that nature, as opposed to just granting them money. Let's invest, and I thought that was pretty interesting too. But anyway, so that's just my thought process, something I'm thinking about, and we'll see. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, but the markets go up, markets go down, and if it happens, you want cash on the side, you want to be dollar cost averaging, and again, can you have too much cash, like I said earlier today? I think you can. But I would be prepared at some point for an AI-induced crash. And, crash 25%. This happened a million times. It'll happen a million more times. Just be prepared, dude. All right, God bless you.